Hello everybody, it is so nice to have a chance to talk to you again. I'm sorry I can't come and be there in person, but hopefully I'll get to do that again one day in the future. I hope you're all excited to be back at school. I'm a little bit jealous that you all get to be there together with your friends, and I hope you're having a really fun time. I wanted to start today by asking you quite a hard question, and that is, what do you think the most important thing that you've done is over lockdown? What's the most important thing that you've done over lockdown? So I've got some suggestions here because I won't be able to hear you if you say the word. So I've got some suggestions that we can look at together, and maybe you can quietly put your hand up if we say the thing that you think is the most important that you've done. If you need to change your mind, it's okay to put your hand up again if you've changed your mind. So I wonder if any of you think that exercise and keeping yourself fit and healthy was the most important thing you could do over lockdown. Maybe you did the Joe Wicks videos every day. Hands up if you think exercise was the most important thing. Okay? What about keeping in touch with your friends and being able to talk to your friends? Does anybody think that that was the most important thing that you did over lockdown? I wonder. Okay. What about making sure that you stay apart to keep everybody safe from the disease spreading and keeping away from people? Does anybody think that was the most important thing that you did? I suspect a few more of you think that one. Did anybody think that not getting really worried was really important? So making sure that you weren't getting really stressed and anxious, and when you were, that you were doing something that was fun so that you didn't get really worried over lockdown. Do you think that was an important thing to do? Hands up if you think it was the most important thing. Okay? What about helping other people? Now, it might have felt hard to do that, but some of the things that we did in helping other people was not buying too much flour or eggs when they were running out, or bread, making sure that everybody had the same amount. Maybe you delivered some shopping to somebody's front door for them. Maybe you grew some plants or made some cards and sent them out to people. Does anybody think that helping other people was the most important thing they did during lockdown? Okay. What about making sure you were learning and you weren't missing all the things that you'd be doing at school? Anybody think that was the most important thing you could do so you could come back to school and you'd be able to keep going and having done lots of learning? Maybe. What about clapping for carers? Did anybody do that? We used to go out at 6 o'clock on Thursdays, not 6, 8 o'clock on Thursdays, and clap for carers. Do you think that was an important thing to do, to support them? I wonder if you think it was the most important thing you did. Maybe. What about helping out at home? We spent a lot of time at home, so making sure that everything at home, maybe we kept things tidy, maybe we gave our parents space if they were working. Does anybody think that that was a really important thing to do during lockdown? Now I can't see what you voted for, so I'm a bit curious to know whether you all thought the same thing or you all thought different things. It can be quite hard, can't it, when we all think different things are important, to know what we should prioritise and what we should put first. And that happened to some people in the Bible. Now this story is in lots of different books in the Bible. It's in the books in the Old Testament of Ezra and Nehemiah and Haggai. So 3 books all tell the same story. And it's not a story that we often tell. Now, the Jews, do you remember the Jews? But we also call them the Israelites. They were the people who worshipped God and followed what he said. And they were living in Jerusalem. And in Jerusalem, their King Solomon had built a fantastic temple. It was really grand. Even one of these little squares here would be the same size maybe as the church, St Andrew's. That's how big it was. These tiny dots, I don't know if you can see them, those are the people inside the courtyard. It was a massive big temple, and the people loved to gather there, especially at special holidays. They had holidays like we have Christmas and Easter, and instead of going to their own little churches, all of them would try and gather here to the temple in Jerusalem, and they would worship God together. And it kept them all looking out for each other. It gave them a chance to catch up and make sure everyone was doing okay, and it gave them all a chance to be friends with God together. But the Israelites were not very good at being friends with God. They kept forgetting about him, and they kept forgetting to worship him, and they didn't talk to him, and they didn't listen to what he said. They forgot that they had made a promise with God, that if they kept worshipping God and doing what he said, he would always look after them. And they didn't keep their promise. And it wasn't long after they stopped keeping their promise that the Babylonians came. Now the Babylonians were strong and mighty, and they came into Jerusalem, and they saw the temple, and they destroyed it, and they crushed it down to rubble, and the Jews had nowhere to worship. And they went round Jerusalem and they tore down people's houses, and they captured a lot of the Jews, not all of them, but a lot of them, and they took them off to Babylon. And the poor Jews were slaves in Babylon for 70 long years. That's a long time, isn't it? If any of you are history buffs, it was between 587 BC to 520 BC. It was a long time. And then, and then the Babylonians were no longer the strongest people. You see, the empire of Persia rose up, and they came into Babylon and captured it. And some of the Israelites went to the Persian king and said to him, please let us go back to our own land. We really want to rebuild our temple. It's really important to us that we go there together and we make that house to God again, because he was our friend and we want to be friends with him again. And the Persian king listened to what they said, and he said, okay, go and rebuild your temple. So the Israelites went back to Jerusalem, and they were really excited. They saw all of the other Israelites who'd been left behind and who hadn't been taken to Babylon, and they said to them, look, we're going to build the temple together. And they went to go and start to build the temple. But do you know what? Some of them started to think that rebuilding the temple wasn't the most important thing. Some of them said, I don't want to sleep in a tent whilst I'm rebuilding the temple. I want a nice big house with a nice big comfy bed. And off he went to start building his bed and his big house. And somebody else said, I just feel like we need somewhere to have a nice wash. I'm going to go and build some baths, some big baths like pools that we can go and wash in. And he went off to go and do that. And somebody else said, I think we need to get the fields ready to grow food in. And he went off to go and get the fields ready. So one of the Israelites, a guy called Haggai, came and he looked at the temple, and it was still nothing. It was still just a load of stones on the floor. And he got really cross with the Israelites. He said to them, you told the king that the reason for coming back here was to be friends with God. But you're not being good friends with God. God doesn't have a house. There's nowhere that we can all get together and worship him. We're not listening to him and to what he says, and we're not talking to him and praying to him because we don't have the temple to pray in. Why have you all gone off to do what you think is important and not what's important for all of us and for God? And the Israelites realised that what he said was right. So they got together and they started to rebuild the temple again. Now I was thinking about that story, and it feels a little bit the same as what we've been through in school life. You see, when the coronavirus came, we all had to go home, except if you had a key worker as your parent. So some people were still in school, a lot of people were home by themselves, and we all had to get on with our own thing. And now you're starting to get back together again. And in your classrooms and as a school, there are things that now you need to decide whether they're important or not. And I wonder what you think is most important for you as you go back to school. Maybe for some of you, actually being away from your friends for so long was really hard, and the most important thing is to get to talk to your friends. Maybe for some of you, you found it really hard to learn in your own house, and the most important thing that you want to do is to start learning again. Maybe for some of you, it's about being safe, and you want to stay a little bit away from everybody because you think it's really important that we don't let the disease spread again. I wonder if we all think the same things are important. And actually, if all of us only think about what's important to us, it might be that we don't achieve very much. They are all important things, and they're things that we need to consider. But I wonder what's the most important thing for everybody in your class, or even for everybody in your school. Now, I'm not there with you, so I can't tell you the answer to what's most important. But I can tell you that thinking about what's important for everybody is an important thing to do. And maybe it's something that you can do as a class one day. You can think about if there's anybody in your class who really does need to keep a little bit distant. And if you're always trying to get really close to them, that can be quite stressful and hard. Maybe there are people in your class who've really missed learning, and actually they want to spend lots of time studying and learning. But there might be people who've been really lonely over lockdown, and actually they really do need time to talk to each other. I don't know what's most important to your school. Probably keeping people safe. But I'll let you have a think with your classroom about what that might be. Let's just take a little moment to sit quietly and think not just about ourselves, but about everybody else in our classroom and what we can do together to help us all as we come back to school. So just close your eyes and just have a think to yourself for a minute. I'm going to say a prayer, and if you want to join in, when I say Amen at the end, you say Amen too, and it'll mean that it's your prayer too. God, thank you that you want to be friends with us. Thank you that we can come back to school. Help us not to only think about what's important to us, but what's important for everybody here. And help us to work together so that school is an amazing place that we all really enjoy. Help to keep us safe. Amen. Now what I'll do is I'll put a song on the end of this video so that if you want to sing a song together you can, or your teacher can choose to stop the video now. Thanks for letting me come and talk to you again. It's been really good fun, and hopefully I'll get to see you again soon. Bye!